Hello everyone, welcome to Learning Royal. Today we'll be continuing our Python Basics series. So let's continue. Today's agenda. This is week 2 of our series, that's why I have week 2 agenda. First we're going to cover problem solving. Then we're going to discuss what a computer or IDLE is. Then we're going to talk about types of data, then basic commands, and at the end of the video you'll receive a special treat. To get to the special treat, watch until the end of the video. Okay, let's continue. So first, problem solving. If you remember, if you remember my previous video, and there are flowcharts which you can use for problem solving. And the reason why problem solving is important is because to identify the specific problem statement or solve it, you have to, use problem solving. Well, to make some specific function or code which solves a specific problem, first you have to know what the problem is itself. Then, after that, you'll have to explore how you can solve the problem. There might be many ways. Like, for example, to solve and to do division, you can use long division, or you can use the normal short division method. And this is the part where flowcharts are used. If you become a pro coder, they usually make flowcharts and use algorithms and then code. So then they have an overview of what they're coding. So let's continue. Well, what's a computer / IDLE or idle? Same thing. Compiler / IDLE. So a compiler is basically a program type of thing in the computer which reads whatever code you wrote and then decrypts it for the computer. Your computer might be written in a different language, so it decrypts it for the computer itself, and it tells the computer to use this language while decrypting. Now, there are many for Python especially. There are many compiler softwares. There's idle, which comes free with the Python setup. And there is IDE. There are many types of IDE. A famous one is PyCharm. And there are many more. We'll use idle for our classes because it's completely free. And to download that, you have to go to Python setup. I have already made a video about Python setup. You can click the I button for more info. On this website, you'll have to click on download and then download. I have covered those steps in the video itself, so you'll be fine. Now, first, let's discover what types of data are. First, we know that there are 3 types of data. Numbers, which are any kind of decimal, or you can also have integer. So numbers, there are 2 types of numbers. Integers, which are whole numbers, and decimal, which are called float in our case. There are also other types. We can use hexadecimal numbers. You just have to have a special notation in front of them. And we can also use binary numbers, which we can use as true or false. So that's simple. Okay, and we also call those numbers Boolean values. Now there's also strings. Strings are the words you write. So for example, strings you have to write in quotation marks because the computer might not detect what you're trying to say. Well, 321 can also be a whole number and a string. And like we can say, I am 321 days old. Or for example, I have 321 jelly beans. This way, the 321 is not a number. Technically, it is a number, but we are using it as a word. Commands. So that's the last type of data. They're functions, basically. You can call these functions whenever you want, or you can even define your own to make it much easier, to make coding much easier. There are many built-in functions which we're going to be covering today. So let's continue with this. So first let's go on variables before going on basic commands, because variables will be really useful for us later on. So variables are like reserved memory space to hold values. Like if you have studied pre-algebra or algebra, you probably know what variables are for mathematics. They're basically one letter which store a number. In coding, the only difference is that your variables can be multiple letters, and And they can be not just a number, but they can also be strings or Boolean values. So you can use, so this is an example. You have to say the name of the variable, press space, and then equals, and then you don't have to have the spaces, but I recommend it to make it look better. So the name of the variable equals, and then the value. So this is a string, we can tell because of its double quotation marks. Single quotes are the same thing, but it's fine if you use double quotes. Unlike other languages, there is no distinction between characters and string. They're all considered the same. So, for example, you have the words "hello world." That's a string. Now let's go on our compiler. So this is how your IDLE or idle should look like when you open it up. You click on File and you click on New File. It's gonna open a file. Okay, let's test this. Let's think of a variable. Let's say number. Or actually, number is just too general. Let's say age, okay? You want to write down your age. Well, you can write down anything. 30, 13, or 20. Let's just set it to, let's say, because most of my audience is in this range, 25. Okay. Let's see, what else? So, we have age equals 25. When we run this function, it should show no errors. So let's run this module. That's what they say. Source must be saved. You can save the source however you want. Okay. And I'm just going to save it as week 2. Saved. Now it's gonna run. You see that these 3 greater than symbols come up. That means that your code had no errors after it restarts this file. So that's what we have here. Now let's go back. So we have right now in this string there's hello world. We're just having a number, so it's the same thing. Now basic commands. The most basic command is the print command. The print command is very easy. You just have, this is the syntax. You have to have print, and you put something inside of it. You can put any value. You can even put variables. That's the best thing. Now the print command displays something on the module. So whatever you type inside the print command, it will display that in the module. Don't worry about the quotations in the strings. It will not display the quotations because it knows that the true value of the string is just the things without the quotation. Now, for example, let's say you have this hello world string, plus you have a variable which is a string. So you can use plus to combine the two strings. Now you can also print values in variables, as I told you. You can just, instead of putting the whole string, you can just put the value inside here. Like, and let's try for 8, okay? Print age. This, even though it's a number, so print matters that if the whole thing is a number, if the thing is, this thing is number, everything else inside the print command should also be a number. For example, if we add a plus sign. If it's a string, everything else should also be a string. So we will explore that later. So I said print age, it printed 25. Okay. Well, what if you didn't want to print the actual age variable? You just wanted to print the word age. Then we'll do this. We will write in strings, so that's age. Now, let's say you have you want to say that your age is something. So you'll say age, and combining strings, as you learn, you'll do plus and then the variable age, right? That's what we think. But look, we have an error. It says you can only concatenate string, not int to string. Concatenate means combine. So you can't combine a string with an integer. Now that moves on to our next command. First, you can do some practice. You can write I am someone, and you can write your name in a variable. Now there's the string command which can help us solve our original problem. This command turns a number or some other character into a string. Example, print variable name will give an error because a variable, like if you have some variable, for example, say age, and you put it in string because you want the string of the age, that will give an error. You will have to do print and then str and the whole thing age. Print str and the whole variable name. This will not give an error. So let's try that. So instead of age or this string kind of age, we are gonna have str and parentheses around age, okay? Now let's see if this works. Ta-da, it works. And now we have age 25. Now we can print that. Okay, continuing on. As you probably know, there are many mathematical operations for computers. Computers are very good calculators. You should remember that because it will be very useful while doing your making programs. So this asterisk is the symbol for multiplication. The slash sign is the symbol for division. The plus sign is for addition. The minus sign is for subtraction, and the percent sign is for modulo. If you don't know what modulo is basically the remainder. So, for example, if you put 3 modulo 2, that means if you divide 3 by 2, what's going to be the remainder? So, then it's going to be 1. So that's what you can do. Now, before we do the assignment of the day and together, let's experiment with these things. So, let's have it age is equal to, we had age, right? Now, let's say a few years later, I look at my program, and I can say it's 3 years later. So instead of 25, I can just put 25 plus 3. The computer will first solve this thing, and then it will store in the variable. So you don't need to be worried. Let's say something else. Let's say, let's think of something. Let's say name. Okay, name is gonna be a string. Okay, let's say the learning royal is our name. Royal, for example. You cannot use any type of these functions except plus here because the plus will just and you have to have a string in front of plus if you're using it. If you use any other function, it will show an error. So don't do that. So if we do age 25 plus 3, it's going to show us age 28. So we didn't have to do the calculations ourselves. Well, when you do, you might think you can just write 28. Well, when you do higher level calculations, when you require fast calculations, the computer can do that itself, so you wouldn't need to do anything. Now, continuing on. Let's experiment the module just to show you. So, let's say modulo function test, okay? That's our variable. If you want to check the remainder of some big number, okay? When it's divided by, let's say 7, okay? And that's gonna be, so this function is basically 9741. That's a big number, divided by 7, and whatever its remainder is. This is called the modulo function, written by a percent sign. Now we'll print modulo function test, this variable which we have. Well, I'm putting a number in here because the whole thing inside here is number. If I had a string also, then I would make this a string too, but that doesn't really matter right now because the whole thing is a number. Now age 28, so we have 4. That means that the remainder of these two numbers is 4. We can delete this. Actually, let's just keep it. So now let's go in our assignment of the day. Make a variable and store an expression in it. Expression meaning using any operator. So let's make it number. Let's just make a variable called number. We'll have some random number, and let's use the multiplication. Okay, multiplication operator times, not 2, some other big number. Okay, now then multiply the value by 2. How do you multiply this number's value by 2? Let's see. You can do the number, which is the same variable, is equal to the existing number, which you also write as number, times 2. Right now, while it's operating this code, it'll say the number is our new variable, and it's being changed to the following variable. We have number. It's gonna go for this. This is what it's gonna substitute in for number, and it's gonna multiply it by 2. So this is another way to do to change the value of a number. You can just write the same variable is equal to the same variable times something else. Now what else do we need to do? Then add 5 to it. So we're gonna do number equals number plus 5. Well, you will understand after some time that it's really hard to keep on typing all of this. So coders have actually the Python program has a shortcut. Instead of equals number plus something, we can do plus equals and the number we're adding to it. So that's number plus equals 5. And then divided by 6. There's no such shortcut for division and multiplication in modulo, so we can't do anything. So number equals number divided by 6. We have that. If you want, you can make it integer division, which will just tell you the integer part of it, rounding it down, which will be double division sign. Don't worry, this won't bring you an error. So let's just have it the normal normal divisibility sign, because our assignment of the day says so. Then we'll subtract 7 from it. So the subtraction has a shortcut, minus equals, and then we'll put 7. And lastly, we'll get the modulo of the number from 4. So number is equal to number modulo 4. Okay. Now at the end it says round off the value. Well, how do you round a value off? We know that we have a new value, so we'll have number equals and then something. The round has a special function which is called round, and easy to remember. And we'll put the number in it, and then if you want, you can round it to a decimal place if you want. So for example, if you want to round it to 2 decimal places, you'll put 2, 2. That's a second parameter in this. This is a type of function. If you want just an integer, you don't have to put anything. So we'll just put round number, because we want to round off the value to the nearest whole number. So, and then at the end, we're gonna print number. So we printed number. Okay, and also, if you have other extra code that you don't want to, that you might use later and you don't want to use now, you can, if it's multi-line, you can put 3 times the double quotes at the beginning and 3 times the double quotes at the end. Okay, or you can put a hashtag at before each and every line. That's gonna take a long time, so we're just gonna put the triple quotes. Now it's gonna only print the number. So the number is 2. Wow, such a hard calculation it might seem, but it turns out to be 2. Well, let's check this, and we can check this number if you want. So this big number times 2, that's already a big number, plus 5, that's again a big number, divided by 6, it's becoming smaller, minus equals 7, it's really small now. Well, this is the part where the number gets really small to 2, because anything modulo 4, it can be 0, 1, 2, or 3. So we have 2, and we round the number off. We don't really need to do that because, we have modulo function. Maybe we do if this number is a decimal, but whatever. Now we have 2. So we did the assignment of the day. Now this is the treat. I'm going to show you the inbuilt function, date and time. So the date and time function is, from date time, you have to copy this exact code. You might not understand it now, but later as we go through this, you're gonna understand. Let's put this whole thing in triple quotes so we're not confused. So it starts off with from date time import date time. So what's this this line is basically doing is that date time is a special function built in Python, but you need to import it each and every time before you're calling it. So you're importing date time to this file. Now equals we have a variable called now, which is equal to datetime.now. So now is equal to datetime.now. This variable just holds the exact time date, etc., etc. And then we'll do print %02d slash %. So this is a big command. This is gonna be %02d slash %02d slash %04d, and then again %02d 02d %02d. It's a long thing. Don't be usually this one's complicated because we're trying to print the whole thing, but that's how it is. So now there's the %print function, which I'm gonna introduce you to. So the %print function is basically that you can put a percent and then 02d signifies that it's a digit or number, and 02 signifies that it's the length of the number is 2. That means it's a 2-digit number. So this one's also 2-digit. This was 4-digit, 2-digit, 2-digit, 2-digit. So we have all that. Now after you put the string, you'll put a %sign, and then in parentheses you'll put all the values in order. So first thing, that's the now.month, considering that you write month before date, and now.date, because we want to have these slash marks mean nothing. They're just the normal way you write dates. So you will normally write a date like month, the month number slash the date slash the year. So we're gonna do that in this now.month slash now comma now.day comma now.year, and then you're gonna have it. This is the next value, which is now.hour, right? Yeah, now.hour, now.minute, and now.second. All of this, and we're gonna print the whole thing. It'll print exactly the date and exact time. So let's do that. Wow, the date and time are printed. I use a 24-hour clock, that's why I chose this, or else it will show whatever clock you use, because this date time comes from your computer's clock. That's it for this video, guys. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Thank you.